Hi, this is my Juno 106 I bought on eBay a couple of months ago. You can probably see here it's in perfect condition. It's cleaned up really well. I've had the case open, cleaned the keys, cleaned the case itself, and you probably just now noticed there's one issue with it. At some point in its life, these sliders on the LFO have become snapped off, and actually a number of these sliders when I first purchased were bent out of shape, and I had to take a set of parallel nose pliers to straighten them out. So I'm gonna change these sliders. I've ordered up a couple off eBay. This is what's going on in its place. I need to open it up. Need to desolder the old ones, solder these on. They appear to be keyed in a particular way, so they'll only apparently go into the board in one way. I think I got that right. But we need to figure that out. Need to get it on and solder them into place.
So I got the machine open now. You can see at some time in the past one of the voice chips has been replaced. That's the panel board that's going to have to come off. That's the two sliders we'll have to change out. Now I'm looking at all of this cabling, and I'm just not relishing the thought of disconnecting all of that to do what is I think a relatively simple repair. So I'm going to do something that I'm sure a few folks won't agree with. I'm going to leave the board connected and just protect the electronics underneath while I desolder these two sliders and fit the replacements. I'm going to try that, and at some point I can always take the whole board out, but I think it's a relatively simple repair and I don't have to really go too far to do that. So effectively 7 screws hold this in place. 2 of them have got cable tie spots, and there's also a number of cable ties that need to be cut off and then tied back up again. Should make a good before and after picture. So as I said, I've put something that's reasonably flexible to protect all of the electronics underneath, but still give me a surface I can work on. I've used an old bit of plastic here. I don't think it's conductive. I don't think it's going to give me any issues or any problems that way. So first things first, I've got a desoldering iron, far better than trying to use solder wick or anything that a couple of separate instruments like a little kind of desoldering solder sucker. I'm actually just going to properly desolder this thing. Should provide the minimum heat to the track and minimum damage to the board. I am hoping so. It took me a few minutes. Just took me a few minutes to get that out. I was wrong about them being keyed one particular way. There is a little key on the top that shows you how to put them back in, and that's what I was just pointing out there. I've got the new sliders in place, just make sure they're nice and tight to the board, and again, a few minutes just to solder them all back in place. So all back in place. Now the trick is to fit the board, but before that I'm going to put back on the rubberized material that protects the sliders or stops any swarf getting into the slider itself. Now that's quite badly degraded, so I'm going to have to do something a little bit unique with it. Cleaned up as best as I can, but it is very brittle. It's very old and I don't have any replacement. So I'm going to use it as it is. I'm going to put a little bit of glue into place. I've tried just kind of leave it there, but it does fall off as soon as you start pushing the board up. I'm going to use a little bit of fabric glue and as you can see there, a cotton bud just to apply it to the edges of the slider and to the top and bottom just to get a reasonable amount of purchase, and then just leave it there for a few minutes before I put the board back into place. Okay, so the board's back on. A little bit tricky with all the cabling. Sits under the board. Got to, really get that bend the top panel back as far as it'll go in the hinges in order to make the board slide in. I've tie wrapped the cabling back, what I think is the most appropriate place, and make sure it's all secure. Had obviously a final inspection of the solder joints. So just before I finally screwed the case all together, I brought it through, tested everything's working, but here we are. Everything lights up fine, keys are playing fine. Now just need to test the LFO function, see if there's a change in the sound. It's definitely registering on the display panel. There's a change in settings, so that's good news. Same with the LFO delay, it registers as a change in, from away from basic settings. And I'm definitely getting a response there. So, successful repair. So the one thing I'm not happy about is these slider caps. They're just well not pressed down onto the sliders themselves and slider posts, and there's so much weight I'm having to put on it. I'm worried about mechanically damaging the board. Sitting very high. That's about the only thing I'm not happy about, and we'll just work it out over the next couple of months.